Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
Good morning. We want to welcome you back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline show. Today we have Ms. Bonnie Bomer. She's an advocacy specialist with the Indiana Disability Rights. Today we'll be talking about Disability Awareness Month. And as you know, everyone wins when everyone is in. And today Bonnie will share information about an initiative that's going on with disability rights this month of October. There's a lot of information to cover, and we're going to get right into the program with our guest, Ms. Bonnie Bomer. Bonnie, how are you today?
I am great. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm excited to talk with you about National Disability Employment Awareness Month, NDEAM for short. And this is the 76th anniversary of NDEAM. It's been around for a long time. Initially, it was started as Employment for Handicapped People Month, I believe. It actually was started years ago, and we've kind of finessed up the name. And what we are doing is reaching across the state. We are a coalition of people with disabilities and professionals called Work to Include Coalition. The Work to Include Coalition is set up with people across the state of Indiana who are celebrating NDEAM by offering special programs. We've got billboards in some communities. We have some webinars going on in communities. We have, I believe one community is doing an employment, I think they're called reverse employment fairs, because they actually try to get out to employers and bring people who have disabilities to them and vice versa, and say, here we go, we've got matches for the jobs that you have open. In here in Indianapolis, we've offered one webinar on the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC. Acronyms, don't we?
Yes, we do.
We have another coming up on October 19th from 1 to 2:30, and that one will focus on assistive technology in the workplace and how we can get the job done when we have level playing field to work with. So I'm excited. I'm always excited to be involved in Work to Include. And as Lee said, it's everyone wins when everyone's in. We want to encourage employers to reach out and look for qualified people with disabilities to fill a lot of those jobs that they have available. And we want to encourage people with disabilities to reach your potential. Don't be afraid to give it a try. And you'd be amazed. And the research shows that people with disabilities do make excellent employees. We have a lot to offer. We have a lot of new or different ways we do things. And the fun part is that we also add diversity to place. We bring in perspectives that aren't often thought of. We think outside the box, as a lot of people say. So I'm happy to answer questions. You can contact the Work to Include Coalition. We have a website. It's worktoinclude.org. And we have information there for employees, for potential employees, people who are looking for jobs, job seekers, and also for employers so that they know what people with disabilities can do for their companies.
Okay, Bonnie. Several questions here that we would have for you. The, the statewide disability coalition, is it led by persons with disabilities?
Yes, it is. The people who started it were Pat Rogan and Susan Rennie, who are co-chairs of the coalition itself. Dr. Rogan works with IU. Pat Rogan. Susan Rennie is kind of independent, and they're very knowledgeable people. They've worked in disability employment for years, and they have a lot of insight. But each coalition for the particular area, for example, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, and so on, are all led by individuals with disability. And we encourage people with disabilities to join us and to work with us. Our particular coalition includes VR counselors. We have individuals from NFB. We have myself. We have people who work with providers. We have one lady that's with Chase Bank. We have another person that's with Connor Prairie. So we have all kinds of diversity in our group, and we're always looking for more people to join us and to help us reach to employers with disabilities and get the word out.
Well, how successful do you think this initiative has been in the past?
We're trying to collect data on that, which has been a little challenging. And this is the 4th year that the coalition has been together. And that's one of the things that we want to do this year, is actually see if we can get data on our impact. We know that employers are responding. We know that there are individuals with disabilities who are out there working every day, and we'd like to highlight them and make the public aware that, hey, this is something that we're doing. By the way, I've been with IDR for 17 years and been an advocate for over 20. My daughter just recently has been employed with the state of Indiana for about 4 years. She's also legally blind, as am I. And she just got promoted at her job. So yeah, that recognition is wonderful.
Well, Bonnie, this seems like a great resource for empowerment and economic independence. So we're going to take us a short pause, and we're going to come back with our next segment with Miss Bonnie Bomer, and stay tuned.
I just graduated college as a blind student. How can I independently find job listings?
Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
It is a fantastic service.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduce the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana. And we're speaking with Ms. Bonnie Bomer from Indiana Disability Rights. And Bonnie, now tell us a little bit more about this initiative and how important it is.
Okay, if you allow me to do a little bit of history, back in 1990, the Congress passed a major law called the Americans with Disabilities Act. That was a civil rights act that allowed not only access in terms of services in the community, but also has a separate title for employment. Title I of the ADA ensures that people with disabilities who are qualified for jobs get a chance to apply for jobs and go through the application process and the employment process without discrimination based on disability. That's a lot of words, but basically we looked at, in the last 4 years or so here in Indiana, we were looking at the statistics, and unfortunately, the number of people with disabilities who are employed remains about 35%. And it's just the people that are available to work and who want to work are often overlooked for work. We're either underemployed or some of the barriers to that are, well, there's transportation. That's a huge barrier. How do I get to work? The next barrier we have is fear and misunderstanding. And sometimes employers do not understand or are afraid that people with disabilities are going to cost them more to employ. They're going to be more liability, more cost. And generally, the statistics have showed, the research has showed that people with disabilities don't cost any more to hire. We're generally more reliable and more dependable because we really want to work. We have a lot to offer in terms of ideas and incentive and out of the box thinking. And accommodations, which a lot of people think, oh my gosh, it's going to be really expensive. Our accommodations are often according to the Job Accommodation Network, are under $500. So accommodations aren't really terribly expensive or prohibitive. Accommodations could be anything from a change in the way the job is done to maybe a different schedule for a person with a disability so they can catch buses to work, to maybe looking at assistive technology like I use to work. I use a large screen, large monitor, and I have a screen reader so that I can tell what's on the screen when Jaws wants to talk to me. Sometimes he gets mad at me. That's my humor. But I'm also I'm a guide dog user. So one of the accommodations is I need to have a schedule to take my dog outside to do her fun thing. Generally, she just lays here with me and just waits for me to tell her what to do. We have fear sometimes that people are going to lose their benefits. They get, if people are receiving Social Security benefits, they're afraid that if they go to work, they're going to lose their benefits. And one of the sweet things is that in 2001, there have been incentives to help people with disabilities become employed and use some of their technology and some of their what they call work incentives. They have work incentives that are allowing people with disabilities to go to work. A lot of the misunderstandings about people with disabilities are generally addressed through education, and that's what we do here in Indianapolis for trainings and just outreach to try to let employers know that we have the potential to make a difference in their company.
Yes, Bonnie, it is very important that we get this awareness out and in this Disability Awareness Month. Now, I know that the U.S. Census Bureau for the state of Indiana state that there's over 400,000 Hoosiers that are disabled, and that we rank 26th in the country as far as outcomes, positive outcomes, job placements for people with disabilities. And that also puts us around 50% of the disabled community as being unemployed. So I know disability rights and this campaign here is really working hard to make those changes. Are there any specific changes that this awareness campaign is doing to bring more awareness about for our employers, the employers as well as universities, and training our students so that they can become employable?
Yeah, I think that there are a number of legislative acts that have been passed over the years. One of them is the Work Incentives Opportunity Act, and what that Work Incentives Act does is tries to get people into integrated community employment. One of the things that I have seen over the years is that employers are gradually becoming a little less afraid. The more we get information out to employers, I think the better they are at accepting us. Some of the initiatives here in Indiana include state as model employer. So we're trying to encourage the state to hire people with disabilities and to include us in activities within government. Personally, what I have seen over the last few years, 40 years or so, is that people are becoming a little less afraid. I think COVID really knocked a lot of things out of kilter. And of course, the unemployment rate shot up, particularly among people with disabilities. To address that. Right now, there's a lot of employers who are looking for people with disability, or excuse me, looking for employees, and we hope they will consider people with disabilities as viable employees.
Yes, and that is so true, Bonnie. With this unprecedented working shortage, in Indiana, there's approximately 200,000 talented Hoosiers with disabilities, which are being overlooked. Yep. And those are things that we all need to work collectively toward. And we're going to take a short pause again, and we're going to run some commercials, and we're going to be right back with more conversations with Ms. Bonnie Bomer, Disability Rights.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free. If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I am a CFP practitioner, and I happen to be blind. I rely on NFB Newsline to keep me current with Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show. And we're at our last segment here with Bonnie Bomer with the Indiana Disability Rights. Bonnie, just to bring more awareness, what is the responsibilities of the Indiana Disability Rights to our community? What do they do?
What do we do? Well, that's a really good question. Our agency is basically an agency that provides advocacy and legal services for people with disabilities related to problems they're having because of their disabilities. So, for example, we have a number of grants that allow us to provide legal and advocacy services to people who are in special ed. We have a program that offers supports and assistance with voter rights. My particular program works with employment, and that includes services from vocational rehabilitation services or centers for independent living. So we can provide assistance when people are running into barriers. For example, an individual to go to the county courthouse because they have to go to a hearing there, but they can't get up the steps to the courthouse, or they're in the courthouse and they can't hear the hearing because they're deaf and they need accommodations. Well, we can do some advocacy, informal advocacy, and sometimes we have to, pull out the attorneys and have them do their magic wand things and get things done that way. We do litigation if we need to. We try to resolve things informally. We are a state agency. However, we are an independent agency. So that means that we can actually take action against other state entities if we need to. Generally, I like to resolve things as at a lowest possible level, resolve things at a friendly level so that everybody is able to continue on. And I have a pretty good track record with, for example, an individual who was working and that person was in the medical field and they were having trouble hearing the other coworkers. And we were able to help her with giving the employer ideas for how to accommodate her until she gets hearing aids and she's able to hear a little better. We work with vocational rehab to make sure that people are on the same page as far as their employment goals, what they want to do, and the services they need to get to their employment goals. We offer advocates and assistance with due process in special ed when for some reason services are not being provided. So we do a lot of different things in the community, and we ask people to contact us. They can contact us either online at the Indiana Disability Rights website, or they can contact us at 1-800-622-4845. That's our toll-free number. And we can, if we don't provide services, we can refer people to services or to other entities where they can get the services they need. And then, like I said, part of what I do, because I've been involved in employment for so long, I got involved with the Work to Include Coalition. And that is where I'm working to try to encourage employment outcomes for people.
Well, I tell you, Bonnie, it's a lot of complexity there with what you guys are doing. It's so much involved. Our general public that's not aware of the challenges that we face as people with disabilities. We have, a plethora of disabilities and a number of challenges as we try to bring about equity in our communities through services. And it's not an easy task, and you presented that real well.
Thank you.
So, and I just want to tell you that we do appreciate the work that you do, and we know Teresa does a great job too, as she's moving right along and getting into the workforce and getting promotions and everything, So it's not unusual to us to see people with disabilities accomplish their goals and tasks. It's just it's unusual for the employers, as often is stated, that blindness sometimes is not our biggest barrier. Is how employers and individuals in our societies perceive us. So that's a lot to overcome. So thank you once again for all your work. So we're going to take a short pause, and we're going to come back with the conclusion of our show. And stay tuned.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Back to the conclusion of our show, and we've had a lot of great information, and Bonnie would like to thank you for that. Are there any words that you would like to leave for our listening and viewing audience today?
Please check us out at the Work to Include website. It's work2include.org. You can also check out Indiana Disability Rights on the state website. I think the best thing I can offer is the philosophy that I have is that when somebody tells me I can't do something, I'm going to prove them wrong. And if I have to pull my magic wand out of my drawer and do that, I'll do it. But there's a running joke about me having a magic wand. Is the way I get things resolved. But my biggest, I think, thrill is seeing clients who, down the road a few years ago that maybe I've run into someone that I worked with in the past, and they said, well, this is what I'm doing now. And that just makes it all, special. Now, I don't even want to say worthwhile because it's much more than that. It just makes my life feel complete. And I thank you for your warmth and your hospitality and inviting me here. And I appreciate what you do to get the word to people about our potential.
Well, Bonnie, we just want to say to you once again, thank you for all you do for our community, and may you continue to be blessed as you continue to bless so many others in your capacities. And the information that to Work to Include and to Indiana Disability Rights will be scrolled across the screen throughout our programming. So take the information, get in touch with those entities, and we will see you all again next week on the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show. Take good care of yourselves and be blessed.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.